All right, so we're back here on another episode of Commanders in the Chat, episode 57 here on Commanders in the Chat. What's going on, Rob?
It's been a good week. Um, I've been fine with Eagles fans all week instead of Taylor Heineke stands, so it's nice. It's
Yeah,
nice to be able to talk a little bit of trash to the other team, especially especially a division rival. It was a good game though. I've had a lot of fun this week.
yeah, this is probably one of the best weeks that we've had in the 11 weeks of the NFL season. This was 10, well, this is 11th. Yeah, this is week 11 coming up.
Yep.
But yeah, this probably has been the most fun of the 11 weeks of the NFL season. Definitely a great win on Monday night. We got to definitely recap that before we move forward to going to Houston. So, what was your thoughts on the Monday Night Football game?
Finally, Scott Turner listened to us. We've been saying it for weeks and weeks and weeks. Just run the damn ball. You have a two-headed monster in the backfield in Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson. But for whatever reason, throughout the year, anytime the run game has worked, he's tried to shy away from it. He's tried to go away from it, make Taylor Heineke or Carson Wentz really and make it a pass first offense, which clearly that's not us. We finally found our identity, and I was even tweeting throughout the game. Like I just always felt like he was going to start to go away from the run game, and he didn't. And he took his shots. He was smart with when he wanted to take shots. They worked with the exception of one. Um, but overall, it was we finally found our identity, and we hopefully going forward this will carry over, and he can learn from it, and hopefully we'll continue on into the next however many games we have left.
Yeah, and that's one thing when you just look at this matchup, just from the standpoint of it, where and like you said, Scott Turner didn't deviate from the plan, and it's just so funny to think like Troy and Joe Buck was like committed what Scott Turner's done. I'm like, finally, like it's to a point where it's like I don't think you would say that if you called our games the last 9 of those games, I don't think you
Right.
would have said that. But yeah, I was definitely proud of just how this team was. Obviously, they had a slow start. Obviously, you know, I definitely thought it was going to be doom in the beginning. Obviously, definitely off of that turnover in the first quarter, and then obviously that first drive. So I figured that was going to be ominous. But then after that, they kind of got themselves together and got pretty much had a lead and kept it going. Definitely proud of what this team has done. Obviously, what Taylor Heineke, what he's done, as far as just being able to kind of manage the game. He did, like you said. It's funny. It's like clockwork because you text me and was like, and then we talked about Taylor Heineke because we was like, all right, it's almost like it's too good to be true.
Right.
Like something's gonna happen, right? So I was like, I'm not gonna jinx it, but I like a part of me is like something is going on, like something's gonna happen. But obviously the interception there, but it's definitely a great win. And like it's just one of those where it's like if people saying we shocked the world, but I'm like I don't look at it like that. I just look at it as a divisional foe, and I think 7 weeks ago, and I even said this even last week, like we only really got beat by two big plays. So I'm like, if we can eliminate those two big plays, we're good. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
And we played them a full 60 minutes. And guess what happened? We end up winning that football game, and definitely proud of this team and what they've accomplished. But in an emotional win, oh my gosh, I know you had to see that locker room, Ron Rivera speech in the locker room.
It not gonna lie, it got to me. Seeing
Oh,
him
hell
seeing him
yeah.
choke up like that, and was finally able to get out what he wanted to get out, just telling the guys in the locker room that his mother would have been proud of that team because obviously I know a week before that his mother had passed away. Um, it was just it was good to see that, and then for Heineke to come in or I'm sorry, not Heineke, Terry McLaurin to come in and kind of finish off the speech and really it's really interesting to see how he's become a leader ever since he first got drafted. You know, he's a real timid, shy, wasn't very outspoken when he first got drafted, and now he's truly a bona fide leader in that locker room, and people rally around him. And he's very smart in interviews. I just want to point out he's very good with interviews. When he was talking about he was on Scott Van Pelt right after the game, and he asked him about, obviously, is Taylor Heineke the starter now? And he gave like one of the best political answers that I've ever heard. He said something along the lines of, you know, he's out there, we just rally again around him, whoever's the quarterback is, you know, that's who we're gonna play for. But yeah, just that locker room speech was it touched me.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's another one of those reasons why I always say like Ron Vera, like he's just he's a great individual, like he's a great coach, and you can see like as far as how he can command the respect of his players, and just that moment alone, and just another thing that he's gone through. You think of a lot of things that he's gone through with his organization as well, but and then yeah, because as far as I knew, I think was it maybe like 2-3 weeks ago he ended up leaving to go to California to see her for like 2 days. Mm-hmm. I just I didn't think that would be a situation where he was going to have to say goodbye to his mother, but that in theory that's what it really was in a sense. And then hearing her passing that week after he went to California to visit her. And then this, with this situation here, where saying that his mom was proud, boy, yeah, you're right. That mess, it touched me as well, man. It's like it's just because I know she would definitely be that the way that team fought hard, and it's just indicative of kind of who he is in a sense. That was a kind of one of those matchups that I know she would have, because that was a game that's just like that speaks to her son's personality, and definitely proud. Like you said, Terry, oh man, that was a great speech as well, and just pretty much saying, hey, we control our own destiny. We can we can impose our will on teams, and I love that. And like you said, he's someone that he was supposed to just be here essentially be a special teams player. That was his initial goal. What the organization thought he was when they drafted him. So for him to have that opportunity, it's amazing. Like him becoming the leader, and becoming a vocal leader as well. And we know he's a leader on the field by his actions and his examples. But for him to kind of like have that vocal leadership as well is amazing. But yeah, big time. Yeah, that was a perfect. That was one of the best wins that I can recall in quite some time. I mean,
it reminded me a lot of back in 05, or sorry, not 05, 2015, when Washington rolled into Dallas on a Monday night. Washington sitting at 2-5, and Dallas was, I think, 5-1 or 4-1, something like that. And Colt McCoy started the game because RG3 was hurt. RG3 and Kirk Cousins were both hurt, so Colt McCoy ended up starting the game, and Colt McCoy won in overtime. Gutsy quarterback draw later in the fourth quarter from like 7-8 yards deep. A real gutsy. That was really the birth of Rashad Breeland. That game, his defense on Dez Bryant. But it reminded me a lot of that game, just the parallels in the Monday night, and Eagles sitting at top of the division like Dallas was, and us underperforming with a backup quarterback, like Colt McCoy was. And that was probably, I'd put those two wins over the Pittsburgh win in 2020, mainly because they're both division games, but just as far as the excitement of the actual games.
Yeah, for sure. And shout out to Colt McCoy, man. He's still doing his thing. He about to lead the Cardinals on a Monday Night Football game in Mexico City. So shout out to Colt McCoy. Shout out to the ageless wonder that is Colt McCoy. Like that is so wild. Yep. Keep getting your checks, Colt McCoy. Keep getting that money.
Oh yeah.
For sure. So Fast forward, we got our matchup between the Houston Texans. It's funny it's so weird. Like when you think about the schedule come March, and you think something, yeah, this is gonna be the Sunday before Thanksgiving. Then you're finally here, and you're witnessing this. Like, it's a crazy thing how time goes by so fast.
Yeah.
We project how the schedule is gonna be and how things will be, and now we're sitting here and we going to Houston on week 11 of the NFL season. I don't know if we can consider Houston. Houston's somewhat of a house of horrors for us in a sense. Obviously, this will be the sixth matchup that we played against this team. Obviously, because due to the fact they're only 20 years young. So, the Texans surprisingly lead the series 3-2-1. So what? No, is it 3-3? No,
3-2.
3-2. I think 3-2. Yeah, 3. I don't know where I got the one from, but so this is gonna be the sixth matchup. Yeah. So,
I hope it wasn't foreshadowing.
No, I don't know where I got that from. It was 3-2. Yeah, it was 3-2. I don't know how I got the 2. Yeah, but yeah, 3-2. So they lead the series 3-2. So this is our sixth game against the Houston Texans. So you're right, because they are 1-7-1. We can't do that. That's we can't do ties, like, especially the way the NFC playoff picture is.
Exactly.
Now, tie will not work for us. It's not 2016. But so any favorite commanders at Texans moments?
Not a whole lot. Nothing really like came to mind. Just I remember back in 2002, the first year that the Texans were when they actually played their first season. I think it was like week 16. It was late because it was a December game. Washington, I think it was in DC against Houston, Texas. The only reason the game was remotely memorable for me is because from being from Fresno, not Derek Carr, his brother David Carr was the first pick that a few months earlier, and it was a big deal for me to watch that, being able to see Derek Carr play, and obviously against my team. We ended up pulling out the win. It was a 26-10 win. Moved us up to like 6-9 that year. Still weren't a playoff team, but it was just a cool experience to see somebody from my hometown that do his thing in the NFL.
I know, man. That is so crazy to think. Like David Carr was drafted number 1 overall 20 years ago. That does not make you feel old. Like, gosh, like I remember like when he was getting, he was drafted by the the expansion Houston Texans. But I was
actually his parents. His parents lived down the street from my aunt's, like almost catty corner. And me and Derek used to I used to go over their house and play Derek. Me and Derek are about the same age.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Derek is. Because when he bought like 30, he's
like 30, 31.
Oh, that's right. That's another one. You're like, God, like time goes by so fast. He's somebody I definitely, and I remember like when they showed him like when he was, when he was little in NFL draft, and it was like he was like he was a kid. I mean, think about it. He was a kid, so yeah, it's crazy. But I really don't necessarily have any. I think one of the things I remember, because last time we won in Houston, it was in 2006. Because that was the game where Mark Brunell went I think he went like 21 for 21. Like he went off, because that was, matter of fact, that was 2006. And that's when like he kind of was doing some Michael Vick things. Like he was like, like Mark Brunell, like what's to his credit, like Mark Brunell, like Redskin Mark Brunell was like kind of like low key, like he was doing this thing. Like he was doing this thing. Like he won't a slouch at all. Like in any stretch of the imagination, he was doing his thing. But yeah, that was a good game. That obviously, and then obviously Derek Carr was still there. Oh, not Derek Carr. I always get
David. Yeah, me too.
David and Derek is crazy. Like
I always get them too. It's like, yeah, but yeah, that was definitely some good game.
Actually, fun note. Now to really feel old, David's son Tyler just committed to Fresno State to play tight end yesterday.
Listen, man, I know it's so crazy to think like all these guys that we kind of grew up with, they got kids now. This makes me feel even more old. And then just imagine when these guys be having like grandchildren.
Yep.
Like that's gonna make me be like, yikes. We'll be like, David Carr's grandson. It's like, what? How's that possible?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a possibility though. But yeah, so biggest storyline heading to this matchup against the Houston Texans. What you got, Rob?
Nobody is talking about it, but it's my biggest storyline. Can Ron Rivera, for the first time in his tenure as head coach of this team, and subsequently the first time since the season where Alex Smith got hurt against the Texans, can this team finally get above 500 after week 2? I've been saying it time and time again. Ron Rivera has had 3-game winning streaks in each of the 3 seasons he's been a coach here. Has never been above 500 after week 1. The only time he's ever been above 500 winning record for a season was after a week 1 win, and then it goes down the drain after that. I'm not looking past Houston, not by any means am I saying that's going to happen. But if it's going to happen, this is a team that it can happen against. Houston, they're fighters, I give them that, but they're not a good football team. Can this team stick to what worked against arguably the best team in the NFC and carry that over to be a struggling Houston Texans team and finally get over the 6-5, have a winning record, join the AFC East as the only divisions in football with teams above 500, all 4 of them, and set ourselves up nicely to make a good playoff run in the last few games. Because looking at our schedule, right after Houston, we got Atlanta. Atlanta has their own struggles. They were a division leader at one point, but so were we in 2020. And heard all the stuff people said about us. They're a struggling team. Got 2 against the Giants. Cleveland, who they'll have Deshaun Watson back by then, but they're still a struggling team. The Niners, they kind of have an identity, and then we close out with Dallas. Can we make a run? What can we do in this stretch? Is this a playoff team? We'll find out over the next 3 weeks, but it starts on Sunday.
Yeah, and that Christmas Eve matchup against the 49ers, that's a crucial game now. That's 7-8 potentially. As far as losing that team, maybe the AFC and outside the playoffs, and the winner that could be the 7th seed. Almost how I kind of thought Minnesota and Washington was going to be, but nah, Minnesota's on a different level. But I think the biggest storyline is definitely got to be the return of Chase Young. I think him coming back, I definitely think it's definitely going to be a great, he's already great when it comes to the intangibles like being on the sideline, being that leader as well. But just imagine having him on the field, how that's going to amplify everybody's game. So I think that's going to be one of those where I definitely see a resurgence in this team, bringing like a Chase Young, and just essentially, I wouldn't say this is a trap game in a sense, but more so just overcoming that, that Monday Night Football high, and then obviously on a short week, like what can you guys do on a short week? So this is going to be very challenging. Like you said, you have an opportunity now to go over 500, and this is where you want to be right around this time of year. You want to be in that predicament. And like you said, right. Yeah. And then, gosh, I think like we still got a bad week in 3 more weeks. So,
yeah, I
mean, this team, if best case scenario, could potentially be 8-5 going to a bad week. So, best case scenario, and yeah, that would just be, great. So,
also too,
yeah,
another thing we got to look at seeing how Taylor Heineke has been named the starter. Now, I believe I read that part of it was because, if not all of it, was because Carson Wentz hasn't been cleared to practice yet. So people obviously talking about, oh, it should have, the whole Wentz versus Heineke debate. I think he's kind of put to bed. He's starting this week mainly because Wentz he's not cleared to practice. So clearly he's not cleared to play either. However, if the legend of Taylor Heineke continues for this week and next week, let's say hypothetically we win these next two games, we're sitting at 7-5, going into the Giants, who the Giants don't have. They're pretty much a one-dimensional team. If you stop Saquon Barkley, you stop the Giants. Daniel Jones is not beating you by throwing the ball. He's just not. So if you're able to stop Saquon Barkley, possibly looking at like you said, 8-5 going into the bye week, with being able having 2 weeks to prepare against the Giants again. If Taylor keeps this up, is it really even a debate as to who's the starting quarterback for the rest of the year?
No,
I don't think it is.
Yeah, I definitely don't think so, because I think we've even know from time to time, we just know that Taylor Heineke can get that ball out in a hurry. Like, and that's the thing where I think Carson Wentz, that's his biggest issue. Because if you even look at, in theory, even in the games like Philly and Dallas, where I think we would have had more of a legitimate shot because Carson Wentz got sacked 9 times in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's very, very difficult for you to get sacked, and then consider the fact how, like, it's already his mental makeup. He was already shook. So it's almost like it's when he was in that predicament, it's like he never really adjusted after those sacks, because he kept on pump faking and in, and everybody know you just buying time. No one knows. They know you're not gonna throw it.
Right.
So once they see that pump fake, they know. All right, let me go a little bit faster. Let me go faster down here and get him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think Taylor. Yeah, Taylor. I think he has earned at least going to the bye week as a starter. Like, at this point.
Also, here's the thing too. Just a quick tangent about this. If Ron Rivera, when Wentz is healthy, cleared to practice, cleared to play, if when Wentz is healthy, Ron Rivera chooses to still stick with Taylor Heineke, he needs to understand, and so does Carson Wentz, and the entire fan base of the Commanders needs to understand that is effectively that's effectively it for Carson Wentz as a Commander. Because again, we've said it before. We've been saying it the entire time he's been on this team. His mental fortitude is not there. It's not what it needs to be. So if he loses the starting job again for the 3rd time in 3 years, basically, he didn't really lose it he did lose it in Indianapolis. He played the full season, but they were like, yeah, this dude's not it. Let's get rid of him. You're essentially losing your starting job 3 straight seasons. Carson Wentz does not have the mental fortitude to come back next year, pay him that $26 million $26 million cap hit he's owed, and for him to say, okay, yes, last year was last year, where I'm better. Like, no, if you choose to stick with Taylor Heineke while Carson Wentz is healthy, you need to understand that is it for Carson Wentz. You might as well release him right then and there, because again, he's not going to be able to handle it. It just is what it is. And that way, at least we all know, okay, next year we're either leaning on Taylor Heineke again, while maybe getting somebody else, trying to prep them up, build them, maybe Sam Howell. But again, you need to understand that could be it for Carson Wentz, because he's not going to come back from that mentally.
Yeah, and it's already kind of evident where you can just tell, like, because you can even just tell, like, how the team gravitates towards Taylor. So it's almost like, we didn't see that a lot with Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
And that's where it's just like those type of, and Carson Wentz, because I always look at how guys look when they're, like, on a bench, and, like, kind of how they respond, and, like, Carson Wentz, he just really just been kind of the whole, like, monotone, in a sense, where he's not like rowdy and hype, which I don't. It's not nothing to discredit him, but it's kind of let you know like that's he halftime don't even like he want to be there.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell that, especially in this case where it's like I think it's just one of the things where like he's cool with everything that's going on, but I know deep down in his mind, like man, I'm not loving this because it's almost similar to kind of like what happened in Philly, where I know he, was happy for like Nick Foles, but I know in deep down this, he knew that he wished that was him.
Oh yeah,
in a sense, yeah. But yeah, I definitely think this is it. Like I said, this could be it for for Carson Wentz. But that's the thing about the beauty about the season where we thought, essentially Taylor Heineke was on the, pretty much was on the chopping block as far as we ever be a starter again after that Minnesota collapse.
Yeah.
But he's earned it in this matchup. Earned it against Philly. So, it's a week by week process, but as we look at now going to week 11, it looks like Taylor pretty much has a stranglehold on this on a QB1 position for sure. Unless it goes downhill from here, but I doubt it very seriously to a point where they will bench him.
Yeah.
But
you got to ride the hot. You got to ride the hot hand, just like in was it 05 or 07? I think it was 07. We've talked about it before. Todd Collins comes in for Jason Campbell injured, rallies off I think 5 straight, makes the playoffs. They choose to stick with Todd Collins. Was it the right choice? I don't know, but at that point, you don't just throw somebody, especially into the playoffs. A couple years ago, we had to do it with Taylor Heineke because again, we had to do it. Alex Smith was in no shape to play that game the way he would have been needed to play that game against that type of defense. But yeah, you keep riding the hot hand until it's not hot anymore.
Yeah, Todd Collins, the Michigan man. Yeah. So let's see. What are your keys to a Commanders win? First time in 16 years potentially. What you got?
Run the ball. Run the ball. Again, we've been saying that for weeks. We've been saying it this entire season. They finally listened. It finally worked. Do not put the ball in Taylor's hands and ask him to be the winner for you guys. I put out an episode the other day, which I kind of went over why, I felt like Heineke earned the starting job over Wentz when Wentz is healthy, but it doesn't mean that I am 100% a Wentz fan or a Heineke fan. I don't think he's the future of this franchise. I don't think we go into the next thinking he's the guy for the next 10 years. He could lead us to a playoff run. If he wins a playoff game, you have to really consider bringing him back on another 2-year, potentially anywhere from $10 to $15 million deal. But at the end of the day, you still have to make sure you put him in good positions to not lose the ball game. He doesn't have to go and win the game. He just has to not lose us the game, which is what he did on Monday night.
For sure. I definitely think, like you said, you just continue to run the ball. Run the ball effectively. Don't abandon it. It's going to work in your favor to a point where, hell, the Eagles were so gashed Monday night, they just like, look, we got to sign Dominican soon. Like
they signed 2 players.
Yeah, and what's his face? Joseph? No, what's his
name? Joseph, I think.
Yeah, Joseph. Yep. So and Dominican Sue. So make your opponents make these little desperate 11th hour acquisitions. So that just lets you know how this run has been. You look at like a team like the Eagles. They're like, look, this is not one of our biggest weaknesses. We're gonna go out here and kind of add some more depth to our defensive line. So, so that kind of lets you know how effective that running game could be. So do that as well, and just get a lot of pressure. Get pressure on Davis Mills. I mean, he's been sacked 23 times this year. So this could be a situation where it could get ugly. So I definitely think they get pressure. Mm-hmm.
And another thing too, you know who has a worse rush defense in the league? The Houston Texans. They've given
Yeah,
up a
yeah,
they've
yeah,
given up 3,600 over 1,600
yeah,
yards this season.
yeah.
Um, literally do the same thing you did against Philly and should be no problem.
Yeah, because Saquon, he tore them up Sunday.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's what they got a terrible run defense, and coupled with that, and then also just getting pressure to Davis Mills and just sacking them and create turnovers again, because that's another thing too where we forced 4 turnovers on probably arguably the best team in the league, or
Yeah.
best team in the NFC.
Right.
So just imagine if we could get 4 turnovers against a team like the Texans, and we can beat, we beat these guys by 11. Even though shout out to Casey Toohill for that
Yeah.
garbage TD, but I'll take
Yeah.
it, because ain't nobody gonna remember about that Casey Toohill play. Ain't nobody gonna remember that till at the end of the year. So
Except us.
except us, but we don't give a damn. Like when you gonna look at that score, like, oh damn, y'all beat them by 11. Yeah,
Yeah,
we beat
that's
them by
it.
11.
And you
Yeah,
move
that's it.
on.
Right. Well, and we'll know. Oh yeah, KT Tulia did score like a garbage touchdown with seconds to go in the game. But oh gosh, I can imagine. What if you had the points, like if you had the exact score like 26-21, and then Casey Tuhill scored? Shit, like like it's already bad enough
Oh.
because. Mhm.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll let you
Yeah,
finish.
just imagine us already the odds was against you, because even to have Washington win, they have a 5-point win, a 5-point, what we thought was gonna be a 5-point win,
Mhm.
and then Casey Toohill gets that fumble recovery essentially, and like that's crazy, like that's just wild. I couldn't imagine how much money you would have lost on that bet.
Yeah.
But
That's ultimate bad beat.
it sure is. Yeah, oh, for sure, for sure. But yeah, because if you had the money line at plus, if you would have Washington +5, well,
Oh, it wouldn't have
yeah,
mattered. As long as they
it
didn't
wouldn't have
lose by
mattered. That's
5, they
right.
would have been fine.
Lose at 5, yeah. But yeah, that's true. But yeah, that's very interesting. But I definitely think getting pressure Davis Mills, and like I said, running the football. One of the worst teams, rush defense wise. So that's concern. And just keep the pedal to the metal.
Yeah.
Even though this team is 1-7-1, this team does fight hard. So
They
they're
gave the
gonna
Eagles a scare.
yeah, and they fought even the Giants, I think, tooth and nail almost to a point where they, it wasn't. You may look at the score 16-24, but the game, the Texans didn't give up.
Yeah.
Like so that's one thing too, where they kind of fought towards the end. I know the Giants had a sizable lead. Houston was kind of scratching and clawing back in the game, so that's where it's like, hey, if they start scratching and clawing, just keep on attacking. But I definitely think this will be a matchup for us, and hopefully, this will propel us to be over 500. And just looking forward to on Thanksgiving next week, where I know the Giants and the Cowboys have been playing, so they always show the standings for the NFC East, and to see us at a sparkling 6-5, will make a great day. And then look at the playoff hunt. Now I know they're going to bring up the playoff hunt and all that, and I always say at Thanksgiving, and that graphic comes up, and you in the hunt or you in the first 7 seeds, you're good.
Oh yeah.
We're in a good spot. So normally if we're in the hunt by Thanksgiving, we usually kind of have a nice little December to kind of get ourselves together, and the other team in Texas, they might have a December collapse. I mean, we know that's usually right around the time when they collapse of a certain rival
Yeah.
happen. So hey, we shall see. So final segment. So, final one, prediction time. Rob, what you got in this? What is the score prediction for you this week?
I think it's going to start out as a close game. I think this team's going to get off to a slow start. But they're going to find their groove. They're going to continue to run the ball with Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson. And also, like we saw the other night, they did a couple handoffs to Curtis Samuel as well. Not just jet sweeps, like legit out of the backfield. So you always have to pay attention to him. I think this is going to be one of our highest scoring games. I think I'm going to say a 31-21 win.
Okay. You said 31-21?
Yep.
Okay. Actually, I think this will be the biggest win of our of the season thus far. Actually, got us winning 27-9.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, hey, maybe it's a little bit of Monday night football courage, or just riding that wave. I definitely think definitely we can if we can stop Philly with 21 points. I definitely think we can definitely hold them to maybe 9 or 9 or so points. So I definitely think we'll win 27-9 and get ourselves above 500 for the first time in since we won.
Yep.
A win is a win, at this
Especially
point,
in this league.
for sure. It'll be
This league at this time of the year, late November, getting into December, a win is a win is a win.
Correct. And you'll take it any way you can,
Exactly.
especially a road victory. And a teenager, a 16-year-old child will actually see a Washington Commanders win over the Houston Texans, potentially. Yeah. So if a child was born in 2000, if a child was born before September 24th, 2006, they have never seen the Washington Commanders beat the Houston Texans. But guess what? You 16-year-old children, you'll see that hopefully. But yeah,
get to see it on Sunday.
For sure. Guys got your learner's permit on your way to picking the way you're going to college.
Yep.
So yeah. So we'll put a bow on episode 57. Rob, tell them where you can find your social media and the upcoming project, what you got going on.
Y'all already know where you can find me, FNC Pod on Twitter, Football and Chill Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. I just dropped a podcast the other day talking about the win and what I think about the Taylor Heineke situation versus Carson Wentz. So definitely go check that out. Whether Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you do on Apple Podcasts, give me a 5-star review. Throw something in the comments. Help me out a little bit. Coach, we got post-game show Sunday evening. 8 o'clock Eastern. We're going to be there. You'll see us there. Definitely get ready for this draft coverage because it's going to be as busy as we are during this season. Draft coverage starting immediately after the Super Bowl is going to be just as busy. So definitely keep an eye out.
Yeah, for sure. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram under Commanders ITC. Also, my other podcasts, Couch Coach Live. Pretty much we air those on Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We got a lot of stuff going on Couch Coach Live this week. I know we're going to get you ready for the Thanksgiving Day games, do a preview of that, and then we also have our live show on Wednesday. Then we'll have our Thanksgiving preview on Thanksgiving morning, so we'll have that for you. Then we got the post-game show here tomorrow on Sunday night, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We'll definitely do that as well, and we might drop a Turkey Day Commanders in the chat pod, but we'll see how everything goes. We're kind of teasing it, but we're working on it.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do.
It's in the oven. So yeah, once again, thank you everybody for checking us out. This has been this week's Commanders in the Chat, and we will see you guys on the post game on Sunday. And we're out.